Alright, so for those of you that believe in aliens in the Bible, this information is for you. This is the true history of how the Bible was written.
All right, let's see it.
The Bible is actually plagiarized from all of these ancient texts.
So there's not a strong case to make that the Bible plagiarized any one of these texts, much less all of them, and definitely not the Emerald Tablet and the Tibetan Book of the Dead, since they were not even composed until centuries after the Bible was completed. But the only two collections of texts that have any claim to make for any kind of genetic relationship would be Enuma Elish and the Sumerian tablets. But even there, the relationship is limited to some broad thematic overlap and is just as likely to be two different corpora drawing and adapting traditions shared from the broader sociocultural matrix. And additionally, in the biblical literature, the traditions are crafted so as to compete with the other tellings of these stories, to say, no, they're wrong, this is how it really went, if there's a relationship at all. So that doesn't really come close to anything we might call plagiarism. Now, we could likely make a case for plagiarism with some Northwest Semitic literature, like the Ugaritic texts. Psalm 29, for instance, appeals to some pretty stock Northwest Semitic storm deity imagery in praising Adonai. And it mentions a bunch of place names that are not in Israel, but are in the north, around Phoenicia, one of the places where Baal was worshipped, a Northwest Semitic storm deity. So many scholars conclude that Psalm 29 originally was a hymn dedicated to Baal that was appropriated with Baal's name replaced with Adonai's. Now, we don't have the source text for that, so we can't say for sure. A clearer link can be drawn between Isaiah 27:1, which talks about how Adonai will defeat Leviathan, the wriggling serpent, and Leviathan, the twisting serpent, and the Baal cycle, which talks about how Baal defeated Lotan, the Ugaritic cognate to Leviathan, the wriggling serpent, Lotan, the twisting serpent. So that's a clear, direct link. Now, Isaiah is writing many centuries later, so it's not clear where they're getting this text from, where they're quoting it from, but that is definitely descended from the same text.
The Ten Commandments are stolen from the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and they come from the 42 Laws of Mayat. These are the original, literally the original affirmations. Go look them up.
So there's no truth whatsoever to this. This is a reference to what are known as the negative confessions. They're not commandments, but affirmations by the deceased soul that they have not committed a list of 42 different sins. And the best known version of this comes from the papyrus of Ani, which dates to about 1250 BCE, many centuries before the Ten Commandments were written. And they follow the same pattern. It's hail deity X, who comes from region or deity Y. I have not stolen the bread of the gods, or something like that. So a lot of it is pretty specific to Egypt. There's a lot of repetition, a lot of things about stealing food, a lot of things about being angry or violent or things like that, and a lot of it is very generic. And so just like about half of the Ten Commandments are very generic, there's going to be conceptual overlap. Don't kill, don't lie, don't steal, don't commit adultery, things like that. The notion that there is any indication of borrowing or a direct genetic relationship has absolutely no support whatsoever.
The teachings of Jesus are identical to the teachings of Thoth in the Emerald Tablet.
So this is just pure and utter nonsense for two main reasons. One, the Emerald Tablet was written after the New Testament. The oldest manuscript we have dates to about 800 CE, and all scholars agree it was only written a few centuries before that at the earliest. And the other main reason, you can look at all 12 to 15 lines of the text, depending on the version, and not a single one of those lines actually overlaps in any way with any of the teachings of Jesus.
These teachings were taken, transcribed, put on scrolls, put on tablets, and they were hidden in caves. Then they were discovered later on and studied by the Gnostics. Gnostics and other groups who studied this wisdom transcribed it onto paper. Then there were councils that discovered these teachings, one of them being the Council of Nicaea. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. They actually are the ones who formed and canonized the Bible, but they handpicked what books they wanted in the Bible.
So there was a group known as the Essenes who copied down the biblical and other texts on scrolls and put them in jars and hid them in caves. Those are the Dead Sea Scrolls. There were people known as the Gnostics. There were early Christian councils, including the Council of Nicaea. But not a single word of what was said about any of those three things in that clip was accurate in any way, shape, or form.
There are hundreds of verses that mention aliens, that mention UFOs, advanced alien technology, alien vehicles. Like, it's so obvious that the gods were aliens. I mean, let's start learning the real history of our world.
Please stop sharing such ludicrous misinformation.